My name is Yumi Ishii. I'm 28 years old and I work as a nail technician. After graduating from a correspondence high school with a major in beauty, I got a job at a major nail salon. With all the employees and customers being women, there was no chance for romance. But then a senior colleague invited me to my first ever group blind date. To be honest, I didn't expect to meet anyone great at the group date. I'm an 18-year-old nail technician. I've been working at a nail salon since graduating high school. My hobbies are doing my own nails and exploring cafes. Nice to meet you.
18 years old? You're really young. It must be nerve-wracking being in your first year as a working adult. My name is Hiroshi Ishii. I'm 22 years old and also in my first year at work selling beauty equipment.
That day, we mostly talked about ourselves and our jobs, and I exchanged contact information with Hiroshi. The day after the group date, Hiroshi invited me on our first date. After being friends for 2 years, we started dating. In the second year of our relationship, he proposed, and we got married. My mother-in-law seems to be concerned about the fact that I got married at the young age of 22.
Can you really manage both a household and a job at just 22? I'm sorry, Yumi, but I'll have to come over often to check on how things are going at your house.
My mother-in-law visits our home frequently and follows me around.
The taste of your cooking is a bit off. What kind of broth did you use? Oh, I can't believe you can't even do proper food prep. I think you can clean more thoroughly than this.
Excuse me, but I have my own way of doing things. I never expected my gentle mother-in-law to criticize my cooking and housework. I felt a mix of surprise and anger. One day, when I came home from work, I found my mother-in-law inside the house having used a spare key she made without my permission. These are my clothes. Don't try to throw them away without asking.
These flashy clothes aren't age appropriate. You still haven't outgrown your student phase.
Your mom made a spare key without asking and tried to throw away my clothes. You need to take the key away from her and tell her to stop coming over.
Yeah, I'll tell her next time.
I told my husband about it, but he dislikes confrontation and doesn't convey my feelings to his mom. I couldn't sleep at night, overwhelmed with anger towards my mother-in-law and my husband's attitude. In the midst of all this, I found out that I was pregnant.
You're pregnant? All right, let's go shopping for baby supplies this weekend.
It's still early in the pregnancy. Don't rush things.
Well, I can't believe you're pregnant.
My mother-in-law isn't happy about it, probably because she doesn't like me. Desperate to get away from my mother-in-law, I talked to my workplace and got transferred to a location near my parents' house. I decided to have an early maternity leave at my parents' place. I went back to my parents' house, which is a 3-hour trip one way. I lived a calm life at my parents' place for a while, but my mother contacted my husband to inform him about the birth of our daughter. With a sigh, I reluctantly got into my husband's car with our newborn daughter to go back home. The first thing my mother-in-law said when she saw her first grandchild was,
"Oh, I'm so glad she doesn't look like her mother."
Mom, don't say things like that.
But my mother-in-law continued talking as if she hadn't heard my husband's quiet voice at all.
You weren't the kind of daughter-in-law I was expecting. So I was worried about what would happen if those traits got passed down to my first grandchild. Yumi, just leave the grandchild here and leave the house.
Am I just supposed to let her say whatever she wants? There's no way I'm letting her take my child. I reached the limit of pretending to be a refined and elegant daughter-in-law. That's it. I've had enough. Knock it off already.
What?
What? You're like a completely different person.
Actually, I used to be a punk. Dad lost his job back in the day. He didn't even bother looking for work, just kept boozing it up. Eventually, Mom and Dad split up because of it.
Huh? Why are you talking like that?
Dad said he'd rather stay unemployed for life than lose another job, you know? So, I got fed up with that nonsense and joined a gang.
I knew I wasn't wrong about you. You were just too hopeless at cooking and cleaning for me to stand by and watch.
What's wrong with being bad at cooking and cleaning? Are you telling me I should be like my dad, who was so afraid of losing his job that he preferred being unemployed for life?
No, that's not what I meant.
Once I started doing that correspondence high school thing, I ended up as the leader of one of the biggest and baddest gang group in Kansai. My husband and mother-in-law were both stunned into silence, but I continued. I've got over 100 bad homies. All it takes is one post on social media and the word spreads like wildfire.
What? What are you planning to do?
After a moment of silence, I calmed down and returned to my normal tone. I've recorded all of your comments about my cooking and cleaning on my phone, Machiko.
You're not seriously thinking of letting the delinquents hear that, are you? But even if you did, it wouldn't have anything to do with me.
That's right, it has nothing to do with you. But when over 100 punks spread something around, it can have quite an impact. As I said that, I posted the recording of my mother-in-law's voice to social media, right in front of my stunned husband and mother-in-law. Do you use social media?
Well, my coworkers recommended it, so...
And then check it out tomorrow. Things are going to get interesting.
What did you just do?
Oh, I just shared the audio of you instructing me on how to cook and clean with some punks who have nothing to do with you. Through social media. My mother-in-law had absolutely no knowledge of the internet or social media. And although my husband has started using social media on the recommendation of his colleagues, he didn't actually use it at all. They both stared at me in bewilderment.
Hey, what's going on here?
The next morning, I was woken up by Hiroshi's shouting. What do you mean, what's going on? Explain it properly.
I'm getting messages from my coworkers on social media.
Messages? What kind of messages?
Things like, this is what happens when you neglect your family for work, or, if it were me, I'd stand up for my wife over my own parents. Yumi, you posted that on social media for the delinquents, right? So why do my coworkers know about it?
I deliberately didn't reply and instead opened social media on my phone. I'm getting all sorts of messages from anonymous people too. They're saying things like, what a terrible mother-in-law, and can't believe there are still mothers-in-law like that nowadays.
How can you stay so calm? This post has gone viral and is even trending.
Even someone as out of touch with trends like you knows about trending topics, huh?
What's with that condescending tone?
I'm just saying what I think, just like your mom. After a brief silence, Hiroshi cautiously asked me,
Who exactly are you, Yumi? What did you do before becoming a nail technician?
Didn't I tell you yesterday? I became a punk because of my messed up home life. And after I started attending a correspondence high school, I became the leader of a gang group.
But you don't look anything like that. With your beautiful black hair and fair skin, where would you even find a delinquent who looks like you?
I left that life behind a long time ago. Although, I still have connections with them. When I decided to become a working adult, I resolved to become a refined and elegant woman. But when I'm faced with someone like your mom, who says exactly what she's thinking without any regard for others, I just couldn't hold back anymore. Just then, the front door suddenly opened, and there stood my mother-in-law.
What's going on here? The neighbors are talking about it too.
Oh, I didn't expect it to spread that far. Even I'm surprised.
Don't give me that nonsense. What did you do on your phone yesterday?
I simply posted the recordings of the complaints you've been making about me on social media. Nothing more.
Then why do the neighbors know about it?
Didn't I tell you yesterday? I have connections with over 100 gang members. They all helped spread my post at once. The post that the punks spread reached the general public, who then spread it further. And it eventually reached Hiroshi's coworkers and the neighborhood wives.
The power of social media is terrifying.
I never imagined it could be this scary. Why didn't you tell me sooner?
I didn't expect it to spread this much either. After a brief silence, my mother-in-law suddenly started shouting.
Thanks to you, I'm a laughingstock across the country. And you used to be a delinquent? There's no way I'm letting someone like you take care of my grandchild. Get out of here now.
Machiko, I'm recording what you're saying right now, too.
Threatening me like this? That's just what I'd expect from an ex-delinquent.
Mom, let's not say any more.
Actually, I recorded the moment when you first met your grandchild, too. The touching first encounter between grandmother and grandchild. I'm thinking of posting that on social media as well.
A touching first encounter. But didn't Mom say something like, you're glad that your granddaughter didn't take after her mother, or you were worried that your first grandchild might take after their mother?
Well, did I say something like that?
I showed them the footage from that moment on my phone.
What is this? Mom and my faces are shown, but there are mosaics covering the faces of my daughter and Yumi.
Just to protect our privacy.
If you're talking about privacy, then you should have put mosaics on Hiroshi's and my faces too.
Oh, I'm afraid I can't do that. There's a high demand on my social media to see the face of a rare old-fashioned mother-in-law.
Then at least put a mosaic on my face.
That's also not possible. There's been a lot of interest in seeing the face of a weak husband who can't stand up to his domineering mother. Oh, and by the way, I also have some intense footage of you shouting just a moment ago. I'll be posting that on social media as well.
The neighborhood wives are already giving me cold looks as it is. Please stop this already.
As if I didn't hear my mother-in-law's screams, I went ahead and posted both videos back to back.
This is why I can't stand young people these days. They immediately post everything on social media, spreading it around and shamelessly exposing others.
I didn't want to post this either, but it was too painful to keep all this worry to myself. Hey, Hiroshi, didn't I ask you to take away the spare key from your mom and tell her not to come to our house anymore?
But I wanted you and Mom to get along, Yumi. If you kept meeting Mom, I thought there would come a day when you two could reconcile, right?
Well, that day never came, and look where we are now.
Exactly. This happened because you kept running away from the problem and avoided dealing with it.
Alright, I understand. It's all my fault. First, I need to call my coworkers to apologize. And then, I'll need to call and email our business partners to apologize as well.
So you're planning to run away again? I have even worse recordings and videos, you know. If I post those too, they'll spread even more widely.
My approach and priorities were completely wrong. I should have apologized to you and Mom first.
No, I don't need an apology from you anymore, Hiroshi. No amount of apologies is going to change this situation.
My mother-in-law clearly thought that all I did was post on social media and show the content to the delinquents. But she never imagined that it would spread from the delinquent group to ordinary people and eventually to people they know. None of us, including myself, had considered that possibility.
A little while ago, I lent my phone to my elementary school daughter, and she showed me a video on my phone and asked if this is the lady from our neighborhood. Oh, what are you going to do if this negatively affects the children? Please be mindful of your behavior.
I always thought you were a refined lady, a perfect wife and mother. I never imagined you would be so harsh with your young daughter-in-law. I feel somewhat betrayed. Don't speak to me for a while, please. My mother-in-law was regarded in the neighborhood as a refined lady, and had the image of a perfect wife and mother. However, contrary to that image, she was someone who spoke bluntly to her family members. Her good reputation quickly crumbled, and it seems neighbors began to gossip about her.
Mom has decided to move to a rural town. Now we can live peacefully as a family of 3 without any interference from her. She called me once, though. She said she spent all of Dad's inheritance on the move. And with her personality, she keeps getting into conflicts at every part-time job she finds, leading to her quitting and searching for a new one.
With her personality, she's bound to keep repeating the same thing.
Why are you being so cold? Aren't you worried about Mom at all?
After everything she's done, criticizing me endlessly, trying to throw away clothes that were important to me, And even telling me to leave just because the grandchild was born? Who would worry about a mother-in-law like that? Even after she moved, my mood didn't improve.
Ever since our daughter was born, my wife's been getting unusually assertive. She's been trying to exclude me whenever I come home.
My husband dumped all the housework and childcare on me, calling it too much trouble while he went out drinking, pretending it was work. I know you've been going out drinking, pretending to work late, and talking bad about me. Ever since that incident, I've been following your coworkers on social media. They kindly relay to me every word of your complaints and grievances against me.
No way. Who's been telling you this?
Before you start pointing fingers, shouldn't you be apologizing to me first?
You're right. I'm sorry for saying such careless things when I was drunk.
I can't trust someone who only apologizes after I have to prompt them. As our marriage continued to deteriorate, my husband came to me with a request.
This is a lifelong request from my mom. She wants to see her grandchild's face.
No way. I don't want to get upset if she starts complaining again.
If she does, I'll make sure to shut her up.
You've never once been able to stand up to her. Hearing that from you doesn't give me any confidence. You don't help with childcare or housework, and yet you still take your mother's side? I'm completely disappointed in you. I want a divorce. I pulled out the divorce papers I had prepared beforehand and thrust them in front of him.
No. If people at work find out I got divorced, they'll laugh at me again.
If all you're worried about is being laughed at, then divorce is an easy matter. I'm also going to demand child support in a lump sum until our child reaches adulthood.
Wait a minute. As the father, I have a right to custody.
Our child doesn't want a father who has no sense of responsibility. Saying that, I handed our daughter over to my husband. She has a habit of crying whenever someone unfamiliar holds her. The moment she was held by her father, who had never held her since birth, she started crying loudly. This, it seems, was the final straw, and I was granted custody of our child. A few days after our divorce was finalized, I got a call from Hiroshi again.
About the child support. Can't I pay it in installments?
I said I want it in a lump sum, didn't I? I'd be in trouble if you stopped paying halfway through.
Actually, I quit my job because I didn't want to hear colleagues gossip about me. I'm getting unemployment benefits now, but that won't last forever.
You have savings, don't you? And you can find a new job.
My savings were wiped out because Mom said I needed to be a dutiful son, and spent it all on brand name clothes and accessories. She picked out without asking. And it turns out that the interviewers for my re-employment also saw that post. They said they're worried about giving a job to someone who can't even protect one woman.
So, you lost all your savings to your mother and are struggling to find a new job because of that post. That's exactly why I demanded the child support in a lump sum.
Looks like my only option now is to take out a loan.
Hiroshi sighed as he hung up the phone. I'm off! Be a good girl today, okay? After divorcing Hiroshi, I moved back in with my parents, who helped me with housework and childcare while I work at a shop near their home. Without the stress from my husband and mother-in-law, I find joy in both work and parenting. The greatest happiness is that I can now approach everything with a positive mindset.